very welcome back to EULAR TV. We're doing some more interviews on the campaign of Time2Work. We have some PARE interviews, and I'm very glad to be joined by the Vice President of EULAR PARE, Mr. Dieter Wiek. Dieter, you're very welcome to us.
Hi.
Can I just introduce you and welcome you to the program and to our interview by saying, how did you get involved in volunteering and how is it important to you?
Well, I got involved, let's say, more than 35 years ago because I felt I needed information. I felt I needed physical therapy, so I started to organize things with others, and that's the way it started about more than 35 years ago.
So we're delving into a vast repertoire and history of volunteering here this morning, so plenty of opinions. Do you think the expectations of volunteers have changed in that time?
Oh yes, definitely. It has changed because we see that, let's say, nowadays people do not want to dedicate so much time as they did 20 or 30 years ago. That's one point. So it is the amount of time, I think, and also they do not want to do a task where they're forced to do that all the time. These are two key things, and it must be, I think, for both, that is for the organization and also then for the individual, for the volunteer, it must be a kind of win-win situation. And this is what we have to enable, I think, also for organizations nowadays.
And when you talk about that win-win situation, is that the key to keeping a hold of volunteers these days?
Yes, I think so, because the first thing is, I think a volunteer must feel good if he joins that organization. There must be some kind of welcoming him or her. Then I think nowadays people also would like to acquire some skills they can use also for their work perhaps, or how they can develop their individuality and so on. So I think we must offer things as well so that we do not overburden them also, so that they get gradually into the work, and then also that they can shape that kind of work, I think.
Very good. And, you know, you've been involved, you're Vice President of PARE for a number of years now. You've been involved for a very long time. You're involved with two big programs now at the moment. Could you tell us a little bit about those and what your involvement is with them?
Well, I think at the moment we've got so many different programs. There are things from day to day that have to be done, definitely. But then also we've got an engagement program, for example, where we would like to support organizations within PARE. Then we've got a knowledge transfer program where one organization can learn from the other. Then a lot has got to do with providing the medical information to patients and to patient organizations in how far can EULAR be supportive. If I look at what is happening now with COVID-19, for example, there are a lot of questions, and I know that in lots of organizations, the scientific societies and the patient organizations work well together, but there are lots of countries where there are a lot of possibilities to improve that, I think. So there, I think we can be supportive. So this is also what we're doing, depending on what challenges we have.
And those cooperations and link-ups between the organizations, that's a kind of a key goal and a key aim of what PARE is aiming for, really, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's the key thing. And also what we're trying to be supportive is, for example, how can patients be involved in research, for example, so that we offer opportunities to get more involved in research. Yes, these are some of the things we're doing, I think.
And if I could draw your attention to the PARE Volunteers Framework, could you tell us a little bit about what's involved there?
Yeah, I think when I started, I felt I was lost because I felt EULAR is something like a jungle and you have to find your path in that jungle. So one of the key things we're going to do, we know there's a lot of interest in joining EULAR and PARE, but give some kind of information, let's say, what EULAR is like, what PARE is doing. This is one thing. So there will be some kind of manual we'd like to develop, some orientation manual. Then the following thing, I think we will develop a kind of handbook so that we will provide all kinds of details there. Well, so let's see if it works successfully, and I hope it will, and it will be an opportunity for volunteers also to know more about EULAR and to get into that work and to be interested in working with and for EULAR.
Yeah, because you mentioned the number of different programs that are going on. We have volunteers from all across Europe involved in a multitude of programs,
Yeah.
and it can be a little overwhelming at times, can't it?
Yes, that's right, I think. So that's also the reason why I would like to give some orientation and what we would like to offer as well. I hope it will work and it will be accepted. I think we must provide training. Training opportunities for people across Europe. So again, they can mix, and also we can arouse interest in that work. But also, as I said before, volunteers would like to acquire qualifications, and this is what we can offer then with these kinds of training programs, I think.
And that's a huge thing, as you mentioned. It's a huge thing for people, volunteers coming forward. They're adding to their own skills as well as perhaps bringing things forward in their own lives as advocates themselves.
Yeah, true.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. All right.
And you've been, as advocates, you've been an advocate obviously for a long time, 35 years involved as a volunteer. Do you enjoy bringing your story and the story of people with RMDs across Europe to Parliament and to different stakeholders?
Yes, I really do, I think, because, and this is, I believe, also the great challenge and the interesting thing, that you work together with totally different people, and that, let's say, there are also totally different settings you have. So, and this is the interesting thing, either working in Parliament. So, for example, what I do today, we're going to have this interview, or we're having this interview now, and then tomorrow there's a press conference. And on Friday, there's a panel discussion. So these are different things and quite typical of what we are doing, I think, from day to day.
And if you could find maybe, 3 words or different emotions that have been raised from your volunteering, is there anything that springs to mind as sum up your volunteering experience?
Well, I think it changed in the course of time. I think one thing was really at the beginning that working with totally heterogeneous groups, that was fascinating. I hope I also acquired more communication skills. Well, these are the 2 key things I would say. And as I said before, that working with people in different settings, as I tried to explain before, this is the most fascinating thing that I've got to do now.
And now looking into the future, why is volunteering important? Why is it important that we continue to get new volunteers into the organizations?
Yes, I think the first thing is those people who have got RMDs know we've got made great progress. We've got fantastic medication, but it does not work for all people. So definitely RMDs are not curable. So this is one thing as a patient, I think, that is trying to work with others to improve the quality of life for patients in general. And the other thing is, I think volunteering is important. All people in a society, they should contribute, also give something back to others. And that's why volunteering is important. And if you've got a health issue, it's quite evident that it's worth doing that, I think. Yeah.
And do you feel that those benefits and they really do outweigh the perhaps the negatives, the difficulties that come with living with an RMD, that they pose as well?
Yes, I think so, that this also helps you. I think this is what we should not neglect. This working helps you to overcome your difficulties, because you also see others have got similar things and similar problems, and you share things as well. And what you're doing it's worth doing that. I think this is what you feel, and you see that the work in general is appreciated, what you do. So you get a lot back, I think, if you volunteer.
So on that note, you get a lot back when you volunteer. I think that's the perfect note to finish up and say thank you very much, Mr. Wiek. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President of EULAR PARE. Thank you for joining us here.
Thank you very much.